All right, let's bring in senior medical correspondent Dr. John Torres. Oh, Dr. Torres, we got a lot to talk about today. And I just called you Dr. Torres. That's so formal. I apologize, Dr. John. Let's talk about the FDA. This afternoon, they authorized the first COVID pill from Pfizer for emergency use. The White House COVID team talking about how it would be distributed. What are the key takeaways? What should we know here?
And you and I love the names they give these pills. This one's Paxlovid. It's a little easier to pronounce than some of the other ones.
Yeah, not
but they
so
just
terrible.
got the emergency use authorization. And like it mentions there, it's 12 and above. Those that have mild to moderate COVID, so in other words, they're not hospitalized. This is a medicine you take at home, but are at risk of having serious complications if they end up getting COVID or risk for hospitalization. And what it is it's 3 pills you take twice a day for 5 days. So it's a total of 30 pills. And it looks like it works very well for people that are at risk for severe disease or hospitalization. 89% reduction of being hospitalized or getting that severe disease or dying from COVID. And so it looks like a fantastic effectiveness at preventing those things that we want to prevent at the end of the day. But what they're also saying, and we heard this in the task force briefing, is they're saying that right now it's going to be a little while before we get ramped up large numbers of this. They said 265,000 doses in January, 265,000 courses, meaning 265,000 people treated. And by summertime, they're expecting 10 million. But they also mentioned, and Dr. Fauci said, it's a very complex chemical reaction to try and get these produced. And so it takes a while to ramp up that production. And they asked a question about other manufacturers jumping in and trying to do it as well to help out. And he said, it's not quite that easy. It's not just something you can just turn over and do right away. It takes time to do that, as in 6 to 8 months. And so it's going to be a while before they can get past that 10 million dosing or courses that they're looking at right now. But at least we're starting the process, Allison.
Dr. John, the big scramble right now is for testing, right? Everybody is trying to get their hands on at-home tests or get to a center so they could get tested before the holidays. You're in Colorado, where the state's been offering free at-home rapid tests since September. How's that been going?
You know, it's been going very well for them, and I just ordered mine the other day, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But when I talked to the Colorado Department of Health and Environment yesterday, what they told me is they started this in September. They initially put in an order for 2 million doses. So far, they've distributed 1.3 tests out there to the public in Colorado. And essentially, it's a system. You go on their website, you send in your information, they send you a link to your email, you go back into their site the next day, you apply for your tests, and they send it to you. I did that on the 16th. And I ended up getting my 2 tests on the 19th. So 3 days later, I got these tests. It's 2 different boxes, 2 different tests in each box. You can do this twice a month, so you can get a total of 8 tests a month. Initially, it was more than that, but they had to cut it down a little bit because of the amount of requests they're getting. Now, the one question I asked them, I said, you know, the federal government is looking to start this. If they start this in January, does that mean Colorado is going to stop? And they said, no, Colorado intends to keep on doing this, but they need to find out what the specifics are with the federal process before they decide on what their process is going to change, if at all. But the good news is Coloradans here can keep getting this. And this is a template that the federal government could look at and say, OK, here's how it's working. Because on top of the website, they also have a phone number you can call in case you don't have a computer, you don't understand how to use your computer very well, and you need help on the phone. You can go ahead and apply for your test that way as well.
Dr. John, you held up those Binax Now boxes, and I gasped because those are like gold here in New York. I haven't been able to get my hands on one of those in weeks. Do not show me those again. It's like insulting. It's so we've been trying to get those. You just go to pharmacy and pharmacy and pharmacy, and then you pray you can order something online that'll come in 3 weeks. I think a lot of folks here in New York would love something like that. That's pretty impressive. I got one more question for you about the White House COVID response team. They've been talking a lot about what's going on in South Africa. Cases dropping there, preliminary data out of Scotland that supports it. What could information like that, data like that out of those countries mean for us here in the U.S.?
And what it could mean is there might be a little bit of silver lining to the story about Omicron, because like you mentioned, what we're seeing in South Africa, it seems like the severity of Omicron is less than we thought it would be. Hospitalizations aren't as much as we thought they would be. And case numbers are actually coming down quicker than we thought they would. That is being duplicated in Scotland, where they're finding out some of that same information, that the severity is not quite there. But this is coming with a lot of caveats, and that's what they mentioned here, that the U.S. is not the same demographics as Scotland or South Africa. So we can can take this information, but to a certain extent, we have to take it with a grain of salt and look at it and still wait to find out what's going to happen here, because we know that Omicron is very contagious, much more contagious than Delta. And even if those numbers drop a little bit, because it's so contagious, case numbers will rise to a certain point where hospitals can still get overwhelmed with the cases that are out there. And so we just need to be very careful. And we're also finding out that one of the best defenses against Omicron are the vaccines, and particularly the boosters, which can really help keep it under control, because even if you do get Omicron, the variant, it seems to be more mild and it seems to recover much quicker if you're vaccinated, even more so if you do get those boosters. And so at the end of the day, and that's what they mentioned in the call in the White House briefing, that getting those is extremely important, and they highly recommend getting vaccinated, obviously, but even getting the booster now is one of the essential steps they say you need to stay safe.
Get the vaccine, get the booster. They make a big difference. Dr. John, thank you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.